black boys and black men, Latino boys, Latino men, they experience being treated differently by law enforcement. In stops, and in arrests, and in charges, and in incarcerations. The statistics are clear, up and down the criminal justice system. There's no dispute.
There's a big dispute about what to do about it, though. You now have a poll out that says 61% of you says that race is bad. It's the highest poll percentage on that issue since 1992. So what do? The president says he's got a program to help young black and Hispanic men, and it's going to help mentor them and help with this divide between police and the communities that they work. Let's weigh in on this, about what the problem is, and is this a solution, and if not, what is one? She is the author of The Creation of a Manifesto, Black and Blue, former LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. So, let's just start with what the problem is. Is there a problem, and what motivates it?
Absolutely there's a problem, and I've coined a term that I like to use, which is contempt of cop. And I believe when officers become personally involved in a situation and someone doesn't do what they've ordered them to do, there's a price to pay, and we've seen it. And too often, it's been death. And so what I want to see first and foremost is I want to see officers stop using lethal force as a first resort and use it as a last resort, because that's what we're taught. Deadly force is used when you've exhausted every other means, every other tool. You're in a fight for your life, and the only thing you can do in the immediate defense of life, yours or someone else's, is to use deadly force. We see officers go into it right away. I can't catch you. You won't get out of the street. You won't turn around. You won't come here and talk to me for this investigative stop. Deadly force. And it shouldn't be that way.
The contempt of cop phrase is so interesting, because when we've just watched the video, you know, we don't watch it with the same eyes that you do, but it does seem as though the police are mad. They're angry. And you suggest finding a way through, I don't know, psychiatric evaluation or training to just take it down a notch.
Well, officers are taught to escalate and de-escalate force, right? And I don't know how it's gotten lost in the translation of what they're taught and what they're doing in the field. And so I believe that really, truly, officers should be reevaluated psychologically every so often, just to make sure their head's on straight.
Well, that actually makes a lot of sense. We've talked about it a lot just in the commercial break between the three of us. The fact that you look at the fire department, there's training daily for what they have to do. And granted, it's probably every day a more physical job. But the training of a police officer, you say it starts with that kind of approach, but something changes along the way?
Well, I think you get tainted and you get jaded. And if you work with someone who's used to pushing the envelope and they get away with a little thing, because it starts off small, right? They don't start off killing people. They start off talking to people rough. They start off being aggressive. They start off being abusive, right? And then it escalates to something really egregious where we see a loss of life, and then we're wondering, oh my God, how did it get to this? And you look in that officer's package and you see, like in the case of Michael Schlager, he had tased 2 other people before Walter Scott, and he got away with it. The second gentleman that he tased, Mario Givens, who was in his own home and arrested for burglary out of his own home, complained the next day, and the officer was exonerated. So if there's no consequence for that choice that an officer makes, how do you deter it?
But you know the job very well. You did it for many years, and there's a counter-argument, which is these people that they're dealing with in the streets are less respectful than they used to be. They don't listen to orders, that they resist arrest so much, and that the officers are worried for their own preservation of safety, and they don't get the training that they used to get in terms of physicality, in terms of, you know, using restraining holds and being able to fight. And that combination winds up making situations where you have a mismatch.
Well, if officers aren't receiving the training that they need, then they should surely speak on it to their...
But the demeanor of who you take on...
Listen, that's inherent to law enforcement, okay? So I understand that suspects, bad people run from me, right? I understand that they're going to be non-cooperative, right? And so that's inherent to police work. So if you run from me, I got 2 choices. I can either get ready to get some exercise and go after you, right? Or let you go. I don't get to kill you because you run. I don't get to kill you because you're a bad guy dealing guns and drugs. I don't get to kill you because you won't come here. That's why we train. That's why we practice. In LA, we had things called situation simulations, where we go into a house where there's domestic violence and you're dealing with an angry, combative spouse, right? So that you learn how to deal with people who don't come right away, who don't stop when you tell them to stop. So that when that thing happens in the real world, what you do is just second nature. You don't have to think about it because you've practiced and you're trained, and hopefully you're confident and comfortable in what it is that you need to do to resolve that situation. Escalate, de-escalate force.
What do you think about how President Obama has been talking about this issue?
Well, I like what he's saying, and you know, I was joking with someone because I would like to see someone on one of these panels that they put together who will speak in a real way about the problems on the police department. Because if you have law enforcement officials on the panel, certainly that's important, but you need someone who's not just talking company talk, right? Who's going to say something contrary to what everybody else says, because if you don't admit that there's a problem, then there's nothing to fix.
Right.
I'm here to tell you there's a problem, and I have an idea about how to fix that, so President Obama picked me.
I think she just said, call your girl. You have a conversation you want to have. So you think it's fixable. We have about 30 seconds left. You think it's fixable? It's a pivotal time for the law enforcement in this country.
Clearly, with all this going on right now, it's got the world's attention, right? And so I think it's doable. I think it's going to take some time because obviously the problems are cultural and they're systemic. And I'll say this, they're top down. And I mean chief of police down to the ground pounders. And so it's going to take a little time, and it's going to take more than one facet to fix it, but I think it's fixable.
All right.
The sergeant's pointed out in the past that, you know, you always hear about the cops, you never hear about it going up the chain of command.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's vital.
great. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, great to see you. Great
Thank you.
ideas.
I
Thanks so
appreciate
much.
having you. Thank you.
All right, organizers in